over to Israel. Colonel, Israel apparently caused little or no damage to Iran last Friday and Saturday when it responded to what Iran had done 10 or 12 days before. But it did turn around and call off its second and third planned strikes, according to our friend and colleague Alistair Crook. Well, according to his sources, the Israeli pilots confronted some sort of defensive posture with which they were unfamiliar and which confused their radar. What does this tell you?
Well, first of all, my information suggests that they only had 2 waves structured for operations. Maybe there were 3. I have no idea. Secondly, I'm not sure what the rationale was for breaking off the attack. It's certainly plausible that they may have discovered that they were up against a far more technologically sophisticated opponent than they had anticipated. I've always been concerned about that because we have this unfortunate tendency to dismiss Iranians as just more underdeveloped people. Well, that's absolutely wrong. You're talking about an extraordinary talent in cyberspace and certainly missile and rocket technology. So that may have been the case. There are others who are suggesting that Mr. Netanyahu was responding to pressure exerted by President Biden and his team in the White House. Given the behavior of Netanyahu to this point, that seems to me to be unlikely. In fact, what I'm hearing is that the Israelis are already trying to put together another strike. If anything, they want to escalate from this point forward. So, I don't have the kind of specificity that Alistair Crook has, but I can say that I think this war is going to continue for some period of time. Anybody who thinks this is over is wrong. I mean, I had people call me and say, oh, this is wonderful. Eventually, both Iran and Israel will be nuclear powers. It'll end up like India and Pakistan. I don't see that occurring at all. I think this is a fight to the finish. And I think the Israelis have begun to figure it out. Whether or not that's going to make any difference in the short run, I can't say.
Well, if it's a fight to the finish, what is the likelihood that Russia and the United States will be involved?
It's very good. I think the likelihood is high. And that's one of the reasons why, you know me, I've been arguing against this for years.
Right.
We don't want to be involved in a war with a continental power. We cannot win wars against continental powers. A great continental power like Russia, it's impossible, or for that matter, Iran. All you have to do is look at the size and the distance. The task is overwhelming. We are primarily an air and naval power, and we have very, very small ground forces, most of which are not equipped for high-end conventional warfare on the Eurasian continent. So the idea is crazy. We shouldn't even consider it. But right now we're sitting still and taking orders from Mr. Netanyahu, and he seems to want to continue.
Colonel, yesterday, Linda Thomas Greenfield, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, said that Iran is a threat to the United States. On Sunday, I realized this was a political gathering in Madison Square Garden. Former Mayor Rudy Giuliani, in a very hyperbolic statement, said the Iranians want to kill us. Colonel, does Iran pose the slightest threat whatsoever to American national security?
No. In fact, you have a large Hezbollah chapter down in Mexico. And there is no doubt that there are many Hezbollah operatives here inside the United States. We've had open borders for how long? Who knows? We just haven't guarded our borders. We haven't managed immigration. We haven't controlled anything. Frankly, we haven't enforced our own laws. So the real question is, if all of that is true, why have they not yet attacked? Why have they not yet done enormous damage to us? And I think that's because the Iranians have absolutely no interest under any circumstances in going to war with the United States. On the contrary, this president of Iran is sort of dismissed out of hand as this sort of spineless, moderate leader in Iran who really has no power and can do nothing. Well, that's wrong. He came to his office with the goal of restoring relations with us in particular, ending the sanctions, building a new relationship. Every time something like this occurs, and it has happened previously, it happened right after 9/11, The Israelis and their agents in this country go to work to stop it. And we've seen that again. Well, where did this meeting occur with Giuliani and Greenfield? In New York City. Gosh, what are you going to say in New York City? Well, you're not going to say, look, we don't need to go to war with Iran because everybody in New York City wants to go to war with Iran. The rest of the country is not interested.